Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In today's video, we want to talk all about the 2024 National and if you should go. We're going to discuss why you should or why you shouldn't. The cast today, my name is Scott. We have Phil, Jeff, and Chris. Thank you for joining. And what we want to discuss here is we have people who go to the National, and if you spend big money, it's a really great place to go. But at times, if you don't have as much money to spend or you're looking for really niche things, it might not be as great of an experience. So we want to talk about the pros and the cons of the National and explain if it should be worth your time. So, Phil, I want you to lead this off. What would you give advice-wise to someone about the National if it's their first time going?
Well, the show floor itself, it's very overwhelming. There's a saying that if it doesn't exist at the National, then it doesn't exist, which isn't entirely true, but you kind of get where I'm going with that. You want to have a good plan. Like by that, I mean you want to have a target of what you're looking to do there. And it might not be oriented to actually buying cards, and that's okay. So I think there's a lot for everybody here. So if you don't have a big budget, and if you just want to check out some cool cards, the National is basically like a museum. You can do that. You can even see some stuff on consignment that isn't even available for sale. Whether it's vintage, the amount of TCG is slowly increasing each year. And of course, there's a ton of modern stuff. And if you're looking for modern slabs that are shiny, they've got you covered. If you're looking for wax and you want to pick up some wax, there's a ton of dealers there. There's the big 3 or 4. And there's a ton of other guys. And also there are some, or there have been in the past and should be this year, some silver pack programs put on by at least Topps, probably Panini too. And you can take advantage of that too and get some free packs if you're buying, boxes of cards. If you're looking to wheel and deal and you're a flipper, you're looking to make some money by taking advantage of the other guy, then you can do that too at the trade nights. Now, last National in Chicago, they started to crack down, and I forget exactly if this is driven by just normal like hotel rules and just, people that weren't staying at the hotel kind of setting up in the middle of the lobby, and then guests of this hotel couldn't get by. Like they literally couldn't get from their room to the front door because there are just hordes and hordes of people there. I don't know if it was the hotels that shut these down. I don't know if it was the police. I don't know if this is driven by the dealers that were getting upset that, hey, wait a second, I paid X amount of money to set up here in the National, and there's people that are doing more, volumes that are just setting up for free at their hotel. So we'll have to watch out for that a little bit in Cleveland because things are going to be a little bit more distributed, right? With Chicago, you had 8-10 hotels within walking distance of the convention center, within a half mile or so. With Cleveland, you're going to have people staying downtown, which is where I'm going to be staying, which is like, 20-minute drive, 20-minute Uber or so from the convention. You're going to have people staying close to the airport, and you're going to have people staying close to the convention center itself. And with that is going to come, some logistical issues with the trade nights. It'll probably make Card Collector 2s more popular. I'm guessing he'll have his on the Thursday again, and it'll be really close to or in the actual convention center itself, so it'll be easier to get to. But the other ones, I don't know which hotels will be popping and which ones won't. I don't even know how many hotels are within walking distance to the convention center. I don't think it's like a whole lot. And again, not a lot of people will be staying there. So I think there's a lot to do. And also, if you're a social media guy, myself, Spitballin guys don't know this yet, but we're probably going to be hosting a party. And if Jeff and Chris, if you guys don't go, because you guys don't seem to go to any card shows that are like east of Denver or whatever, it's just not convenient for you. But myself and Scott will be there. And Friday night in downtown, we'll be hosting some sort of get together, informal. Probably be at the hotel. More details to come on that. It's not official yet. Silver Jackify, again, he doesn't know. He'll probably be the co-promoter on that. And what I'm getting to is it's a good event for networking. If you have people that you're friends with in the hobby or you'd like to connect with some people in person that you talk to on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, that's one of the primary reasons that I go. The last couple Nationals, I didn't really pick up that many cards. I didn't even find myself having time to. And I was there for like 2.5 days. I would recommend you're there for at least a couple nights. And the best days, well, for deals, it could be Wednesday, Thursday. But aside from that, Thursday and Friday, I think are pretty strong. There's going to be all sorts of other stuff. There's like a ton of vendors that are going to be there, but there'll be some stuff afterwards. There'll be like a Topps VIP night. Some of this stuff is like limited registration, like first come, first serve. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled for all that stuff. But Thursday and Friday definitely seem to be the biggest with like events during show hours and afterwards, in my opinion.
So, Jeff, Chris, none of you have been to the National? Okay, this last year was my first experience going. And I will say about trade nights, the hotel. So, Phil, we went to it. There was a bar and we had to get together there. And it was great. It was great to meet people that I've watched content of and chatted with online, and people who, like my YouTube channel, came and said hi, which was awesome. I got to chat with people for quite a while. But I get why the hotels did not like having trade nights in the lobbies. There's just some people in all hobbies, but particularly younger people, they're just not quiet and it's loud and they stay way too late. So they kicked us out when there was a massive thunderstorm and all got stuck outside in a thunderstorm. So that wasn't ideal. But the National, my takeaway when I went, I definitely think you need multiple days there if you want to see every booth because it takes a long time. I didn't even have the chance to go through the dollar bins, which is more of my MO at shows and shops, because I think you can find some really great stuff if you know what you're looking for. If you're looking just to flip some cards later or just to get cool cards for a good price, I didn't have the opportunity, and I was there for 2 days. And you can look at a booth and you look over it and you might miss something entirely that was really cool. My thing, though, is I have a hard time with the pricing of going to the National. It's expensive to fly. It's expensive to stay the night. It's expensive to use your PTO to get there on Thursday and Friday for the good deals. So I've had a hard time always going until I moved to the side of the country where it was driving distance. It was 4 hours from my house in Chicago. I think it's 3 hours to Cleveland. But if it wasn't, I wouldn't even go because you're not going to miss out. Does that make sense? Like eBay has just as many cool cards as the National. You might be able to get better deals at the National from what I've found, and you can trade, which is always great. But don't feel like you're going to miss out entirely. Jeff, Chris, you've been to big shows, however. So, like, what was your experience at those big shows, such as Burbank or whatever else you've been to?
Well, yes, I've never been to a National. Chicago sounds the most appealing because it seems like everything's very convenient there. And plus, that's probably the easiest on that side of the country to get to because the other locations are Cleveland and Atlantic City. Is that the rotation around there?
I don't know if they're ever going back to Atlantic City.
Yeah, I think they tried to, and then they decided not to. I think for 2026, it's going to be back in Chicago,
which makes sense. So maybe that's something to shoot for. But I loved going to the Burbank show the last couple times that Chris and I have went, and that's by far the biggest show that I've ever been to. And it's great. I mean, there's some things that the National has that the Burbank show doesn't, but some of them don't appeal to me. I'm not big on getting autographs, and I know there's a huge autograph pavilion at the National where people get things signed, and that hasn't really become part of the Burbank show experience yet. So I'm fine with that, but I know some people specifically go there for that. But yeah, it's really the cost benefit of flying there, thinking about the hotel rooms, travel, all those expenses versus using that money on cards. So far, the using it on cards has won out. I'm grateful that we have the Burbank show here in Anaheim coming up again in August. So that's going to be kind of like the National for me and Chris to go to. And we do get to meet a lot of dealers from around the country and other people, which is great because some people do venture their way out here. Chris?
Yeah, I really enjoy the Burbank show, but exactly like Jeff said, and I think Scott was getting at, like for us to get to the National and back, it's like a minimum of $1,000, including like hotel and getting around while we're there. And that's just like, that's a lot. I mean, I can open up my eBay app for free.
Yeah.
Although it's obviously causes emotional damage, but I will say, the Burbank show, I love it. Like Jeff said, it's really cool we've met some people that we talk to on Instagram a lot, and that's always fun. But the most success, we've gone to 3 Burbank shows, Jeff, I think they've done 3. We've done, okay. So the better shows we've had is we have like a specific card goal when we go in there. Like we're looking for, like the first one we went to was February of 23, right, Jeff? Yeah. And we're like, we want an Ohtani auto. Like that's what we're looking for, an Ohtani rookie auto. And that was our, like, when we're hyper focused like that, it felt like it was easier to move around as opposed to just sort of just trying to take it all in because you never will be able to. There's not enough Adderall in the world to get you to focus on every card there. And that one worked out really well. We found a card we liked. We ended up making a deal. Worked out really well. But the last one, I don't think we really had anything in particular. And goddamn, I had a hard time focusing. I was just wandering kind of aimlessly. I got lost in there a couple of times, and it was tough. It was tough.
It can be a little overwhelming for sure, which I can only imagine is even more so at the National, as Phil was talking about. The other good thing that helps us at a big show like this is that we tend, I mean, there's very specific basketball things like Giannis cards that I look for, but otherwise I stay away from basketball, football, and most vintage. So it allowed us to sort of narrow down what tables we really wanted to spend time at, whether it was wax or the modern stuff. But yeah, it can be very overwhelming for sure.
And it's hard to see. It can really be hard to spot specific cards too, which is frustrating. I forget which one it was, Jeff, but we ran to someone we knew, and they're like, "Oh, did you see the purple finest Freddie Freeman auto?" And we're like, "What? Like, number to 5? Like where was this?" And he was like, "It's over on like he gave us a general area, like a group of like 20 tables. Like it's in there." It took Jeff and I would an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it ended up being at a table where we had asked the guy next to him if he had any Freddie Freemans and if he's seen any. And the guy next to him was like, "No, man, I don't know anyone selling Freeman." And it was in the case 3 feet to his right. And it took us like probably 3 passes before we saw it. It's purple. It's bright purple. So it can be really, really tough. It's sensory overload.
We're about 2 months away from the show, right? And people have already begun saving up in anticipation for this. And that's what they do even around here for some of the regional shows. Or there used to be one that was decent called the Shriners, and it sucks now. But the National's still pretty good. And even with the Fanatics Collector Focus event or whatever it's called now, I don't worry about cannibalization from that. If people are worried about that show kind of taking away from the appeal of the National, I wouldn't worry about that. What I would say is that there could be opportunities to buy from Golden during that week or any other auction house, eBay as well. People are distracted, especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I almost won a pretty sweet Mahomes card. Then I had to buy it a little bit later for just about the same price, which ended up okay. But also like weeks prior to the National, you might be able to find some decent deals. Weeks after the National, you might be able to find some decent deals. But then there's also cyclicality. This is a modern baseball show that we're doing. May or may not be the right time to buy baseball for other reasons. So just think about that as well. So, but yeah, this is a big, huge event. And I would say, I used to say like you'd be dumb not to go if you have the money and means and willingness and you're able to get the time out to go. But let's be a little bit more realistic here. If you're just going to the National to find a good deal on cards on the show floor, and you're not willing to partake in the trade nights because it's just not your thing, which I understand. I'm kind of sick of them myself as well. You might be a little let down at some of the sticker prices on the show floor. There's going to be some dealers that are going to be able to go down and be more realistic and understand like, yeah, I mean, I've got to pay for my overhead and, my hotel room and everything, but I still want to make some money. I still want to move some cars. That's why I'm here. There'll be some dealers that are still, for the last few years, it's been like the 2020 mentality, like, but I'm into it for this. I think we're seeing fewer and fewer of those people because I think some of those guys are probably out of the hobby now, or stop setting up at shows because why would you if you're not selling anything? But there still is that for sure. And one of the things that will work against you is the quality of the Wi-Fi. In New Jersey was absolutely terrible. The dealers sometimes are on their own like private network, so they're able to get to it faster than you. So make sure that you have a backup plan if your Wi-Fi is moving really slowly, whatever your Ludex, Alt, Card Ladder, Market Movers, etc. That's not going to move as fast as you want it to for sure. Yeah.
So one thing I'll say, the National, when I did go, it was really great. I'm from Idaho, and because I'm from Idaho and growing up when I was a big collector when I was a kid, 10 years old when you really get into baseball cards or basketball cards. I was into Pokemon before that. And I did not go to one card show of more than probably 5 tables, literally 5 tables in a mall until the National last year because I lived in the wrong place and I wasn't willing to pay to go look at cards when I can look at eBay, which is the world's biggest card show. But it was a lot of fun. So if you want to go for the fun factor, just to see people, meet people, it's a great opportunity. If you don't really know anybody and don't really want to meet people, it might not be the best use of your money. Like full transparency. If I didn't, like last year, I met Phil the first time in person. I think I pitched the idea of spitballing cards at the National last year, didn't I, Phil, to you? And then we started up in September.
Yeah, you did. And I'm like, I know Scott's got a pretty good YouTube channel already, but like sometimes when people throw out ideas, you don't actually know if they're serious. So you just kind of say like, yeah. And I said like, oh, monthly, because I know you had the idea of a monthly podcast. And I'm like, will that really allow us to like build momentum though? Like, should we do it more often? And then you had brought that feedback back to the guys like, oh, and I hadn't met Jeff or Chris yet. And, Scott is still screwing up their names. I was definitely screwing up their names back then. And I'm like, wait, who's in it again? Because we were in a chat with a bunch of guys and I didn't know who was in, who was out. And you had mentioned it to them that, yeah, weekly would make sense. But yep. Yeah, you were a wheeler and dealer, Scott. I was surprised. I'm like, you're making it sound like you've never left your house before. And you're like engaging in multiple transactions left and right. And there's me kind of like, and I had my own reasons for why I wasn't moving as quickly as you. But
I came out ahead last year too. It was a really good time. But the reason I bring that up is because if I didn't know Phil and Ty, I met Ty there too the first time, like in person, it would have been pretty lonely. It would have been pretty lonely and intimidating. And so just know there's a lot of people in a small space. And if that's not your thing, the National's not for you. But it was a lot of fun. I'm going to be going to the National this year, looking not for many big cards. I may end up doing something. So I wasn't planning on it last year. It just worked out. But I'm going to be looking for Billy Butlers. Last year, I think I asked 15 tables if they had any Billy Butler cards, and only one person did, and he was way too expensive. I still bought it because I was like, I have to buy something. I made this guy look through 5 boxes for the one card he had. And so I'm bringing this up because if you are more of a niche collector, just know the odds of what you want to be there is not going to be there. It's more of the bigger stuff, I would say, that's easily and readily available. Would you agree with that, Phil?
Yeah, I think so. So something I've been thinking about a lot, and this doesn't really have too much to do with the whole card show episode, but this whole idea of like collector, investor, flipper. Sometime in 2020, you were shunned for being a flipper, but being an investor was really cool. And being a collector, yeah, of course, that was acceptable as well. Now, being a collector is obviously very acceptable, but now it's sort of flip-flopped. Now, if you're an investor, you're an idiot. Being a flipper, that's okay, though, right? And because, I mean, and Scott, we were talking about this on the phone a little bit, but the people that just deal with individual cards these days, and if that's your full-time thing and you're not making money through other means like, wax or whatever and breaking, etc., the only business model that's reliable is the dealer, right? Like just turning and burning, like building that network and buying and selling stuff as soon as you get it. Like that, with the way the market is, with stuff just in constant free fall, it just seems like that's the only way to consistently make money. But anyways, I just thought of that now. So back to you guys.
Awesome. I just wanted to say, Scott said that if you're a niche collector, like say you're looking for SSPs, just hypothetical example out of left field. I think it is there. It's just not necessarily with the dealers. I was talking to a guy on Instagram who recently picked up. He's been hunting for a Tariq Skubal Topps SSP rookie, which is really, really hard to find. I think the pop is like, it's under 20. Like it's a really tough card to dig up. And he went around. So I want to say, Jeff, it was the Pasadena show, but he went around and asked every dealer and like was loud about it. And some other collector happened to be next to him and was like, I think I have what you're looking for. And he had it in his little case in his bag, and they ended up making a deal like on the side. So I don't know, put it out there what you're looking for. We actually saw people at Burbank, Jeff, with backpacks, and a couple guys had signs sticking up that were like buying and like the 2 names they were looking for. And you never know what's going to get another collector's attention that might have what you want. Yeah, there's no harm in throwing it out there.
Awesome, Jeff. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I'm anxious to find out how this goes. Like I said, I cannot make it this year, but maybe Phil said it's in Chicago in 2026. Maybe we can figure out a way to make it worth our while to go financially. But I'm excited to hear how this goes, and especially how the trade nights go, given that Cleveland sounds like it's spread apart pretty far. So I'm anxious to hear that.
Hey, if you want to fly into the Cincinnati area and then drive to Cleveland, let me know. You have a ride with me, Jeff.
I appreciate that.
So I'll be headed up, and you have a car. You don't have to pay for it, rent a car, which will be good. But yeah.
What are the official dates of the National? Just so we have that somewhere in here.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, and while you're pulling that up, Neo Cards and Comics did a pretty good video on logistics. He is literally from this area.
Yeah.
from Ohio. That's where he got the handle. And maybe we'll link that in the show notes or something. Or I don't know if we're going to give him that much attention, but he breaks down the pros and cons of staying in each of those areas.
Okay.
And this is an older video. I'm sure we'll have many more.
24th to the 28th is the national of July. Sorry. Probably say the month.
Okay.
And it's always Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Does it go till Sunday? Sunday.
Yeah, there's Sunday. It goes till Sunday. Wednesday is a half day, and you're able to get in with a either a vendor pass or the VIP pass. Tuesday is accessible for at least parts of the day for the partial day for the people with the vendor passes, which I've never been able to get. I think each booth gets a certain amount of passes for that. And the VIP pass is something you can purchase now from the national website.
How big does Spitballin cards have to be before we buy a booth?
Oh.
What would we use it for?
Just to say
The live show, live streaming the entire show.
We could get put up a dunking booth. Would they allow that?
Around a bunch of cards. It's a great idea.
Yeah. The hardest thing would be actually like getting a table. It wouldn't be the payment of it and justifying that. It would be finding somebody that gives us like part of their booth or their entire booth. Somebody like gets sick or I don't know. But
let's just make a booth in a hotel lobby somewhere. Heard that's a really good idea.
Oh yeah.
So the Burbank show is end of August. It's one of the last weekends in August, and I have it written on the calendar. My wife was trying to plan like a long weekend with some friends of ours, and I'm like, we have nothing all summer. Pick any time. It doesn't matter. And she and her friend went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. She's like, all right, we finally agreed on one. She goes in the kitchen, and I hear the calendar like rustling, and then I hear, God damn it! What is the Burbank thing? And I'm like, I was like, are you kidding me? There's nothing on 3 months, and you picked that weekend. So anyway, I made her change the weekend.
Oh, good. At least you have her priorities straight.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Come on.
Yeah, don't let me have soured you on national. It's a lot of fun, great time, fun to meet people. But just know, if you don't go, you're not missing out on anything crazy. It's not worth spending money you don't have, and just enjoy sports cards. Hopefully, we can see you there. If you do see us there, come say hi. Chris, are you going? I know Jeff's not. Are you going?
I currently don't have any. I'm not planning to go. I will see what weekend my wife has eventually changed those plans to. But I mean, Phil's informal event. I mean, are we talking like business casual? What are we talking about here, Phil?
No, man, you just show up. I've been doing this since I attended my first one, where I was kind of new to YouTube at the time, and it will attract a bunch of people. There'll be some YouTubers, some collectors, some guys like Sports Card Dad, Flipping Steve, Neo will probably be there. Mike Gio from Sports Cards Nonsense has been there. Jeremy Lee in the past from Sports Cards Live. So it'll be just you show up and you just grab some drinks and whatever. Like there's no requirement to bring cards. You don't need to talk about cards, but it's also not like usually formally kind of roped off. Like we don't have our own area. You're not going to get free apps or anything. Just kind of show up and just, talk amongst each other. It's a way to get away from the chaos too of the trade nights if you want a little break from that. So it's usually Friday night at around 8. It's usually when it starts, like between 7 to 8, but more details to come on that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I'll see what I can do.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for listening. Let us know in the comments down below if you've been to the national, if you like it, what you like and dislike. So for those that are debating on going for the first time this year, they have insight and thoughts outside of just our 4 opinions. And other than that, we will see you in the next video.